Good day, everyone. My name is Angel May de Monteverde, and I am here to present and recall what I have learned and what our lessons are from week 4 to 6 in the child and adolescent learning principles. So, in week 4, Unit 2, Developmental Theories and Other Relevant Theories, our topic is Sigmund Freud's Psychosexual. So, because each stage shows the fixation of libido, roughly translated as sexual impulses or instincts, on a different part of the body, they are known as psychosexual stages. Some parts of the body become more significant as a person develops physically as possible sources of annoyance or erogenous zones, pleasure, or both. Freud thought that tension and pleasure were the foundations of life. Freud also held that all pleasure originated from the release of the libido or the sexual energy, which he believed was the source of all tension. So these are the three components in personality adjustment, which Freud also conceptualized. Okay, the ID, which exists from birth and is most prominent in the newborn baby, is the subconscious part. Another, the ego, is the rational conscious part. It begins to emerge later in infancy and helps the child relate to the realities of the environment and the constraints imposed by others without losing a healthy concept of self. Another is the superego, which can be thought as something like the conscience. Ideally, it acts as a guide to behavior and it is associated with morality. These are the psychosexual stages of development. First, oral stage. In the first stage of personality development, the libido is centered in a baby's mouth. It gets much satisfaction from putting all sorts of things in its mouth to satisfy the libido, and thus its ID demands, which at this stage in life are oral or mouth-orientated, such as sucking, biting, and breastfeeding. The next stage is the anal stage. The libido now becomes focused on the anus, and the child derives great pleasure from defecating. The child is now fully aware that they are a person in their own right and that their wishes can bring them to conflict with the demands of outside world or which only means that their ego has developed. Next is the phallic stage. Sensitivity now becomes concentrated in the genitals and masturbation in both sexes becomes a new source of pleasure. The child becomes aware of anatomical sex differences, which sets in motion the conflict between erotic attraction, resentment, rivalry, jealousy, and fear, which Freud called the Oedipus complex in boys and Electra complex in girls. Next is the latency stage. No further psychosexual development takes place during this stage, or latent means hidden. The libido is dormant. Freud thought that most sexual impulses are repressed during the latent stage, and sexual energy can be sublimated or defense mechanisms towards schoolwork, hobbies, and friendship. The genital stage, or puberty to adult. This is the last stage of Freud's psychosexual theory of personality development and begins in puberty. It is a time of adolescent sexual experimentation, the successful resolution of which is settling down in a loving one-to-one relationship with other person in our 20s. Sexual instinct is directed to heterosexual pleasure rather than self-pleasure like during the phallic stage. So, in week 5, developmental theories and other relevant theories, another topic is about Piaget's stages of cognitive development. So Jean Piaget's cognitive theory of development is truly a classic in the field of educational psychology. This theory fueled other researches and theories of development and learning. It's focused on how individuals construct knowledge. For 60 years, Jean Piaget conducted research on cognitive development. His research method involved observing a small number of individuals as they responded to cognitive tasks that he designed. These tasks were later known as Piagetian tasks. So these are the basic cognitive concepts according to Piaget. Schema. Piaget used the term schema to refer to the cognitive structures by which individuals intellectually adapt to and organize their environment. It is an individual's way to understand or create meaning about a thing or experience. It is like the mind has a filing cabinet and each drawer has folders that contains files of things he has had an experience with. Another is assimilation. This is the process of fitting a new experience into an existing or previously created cognitive structure or schema. If the child sees another dog, this time a smaller one, he would make sense of what he is seeing by adding this new information or a different looking dog into his schema of a dog. Another is the accommodation. This is the process of creating a new schema. If the same child now sees another animal that looks like a little bit of a dog but somehow different, he might try to fit it into his schema of a dog and say, "Look, mommy, what a funny looking dog. Its bark is funny too." Then the mommy explains, and with mommy's further descriptions, the child will now create a new schema, that of a goat. He now adds a new file in his filing cabinet. Next is the equilibration. Piaget believed that people have the natural need to understand how the world works and to find order, structure, and predictability in their life. Equilibration is achieving proper balance between assimilation and accommodation. When our experiences do not match our schema or plural of schema, our cognitive structures, we experience cognitive disequilibrium. Okay, these are Piaget's stages of cognitive development. So stage 1, the sensory motor stage. The first stage corresponds from birth to infancy. This is the stage when a child who is initially reflexive in grasping, sucking, and reaching becomes more organized in his movement and activity. Next, stage 2, preoperational stage. The preoperational covers are from about 2 to 7 years old, roughly corresponding to the preschool years. Another is the stage number 3, which is concrete operational stage. This stage is characterized by the ability of the child to think logically, but only in terms of concrete objects. Another is the stage 4, or the formal operational stage. In the final stage of formal operations, covering ages between 12 and 15, thinking becomes more logical. They can now solve abstract problems and can hypothesize. So that ends the week number 5 lessons. And now moving on to the week number 6. Our topic is Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory of development. So Erik Erikson was a German-born analyst who learned not only from Freud's work, but also his study of Sioux and Yurok Indians in the United States, where he spent much of his adult life as a teacher and clinical practitioner. Building on Freud's psychosexual theory, Erikson drew a broader and more positive picture of what ideally should happen in each stage of development. So these are the descriptions of Erikson. Okay, the trust versus mistrust, which is from birth to 12 months. The infant forms a loving, trusting relationship with the caregiver, which in turn forms the foundation of the expectation of the world as a secure and pleasant place to live. Next is autonomy versus shame. Infants and toddlers begin to explore their world and assert their independence. Unsuccessful resolution of this stage may lead to feelings of shame and self-doubt. Another is initiative versus guilt. The preschooler needs to rely on active, purposeful behavior more and more as their environment presents new challenges and demands more responsibility. Successfully coping with next challenges leads to a sense of accomplishment. Another is the industry versus inferiority. The school age must learn to deal with demands of learn a wide range of new skills, including the task of formal schooling. If he or she is unable to learn these skills, it can lead to feelings of failure and incompetency. Another is the identity versus role confusion. The primary task of this developmental stage is the formation of a sense of personal identity with regard to such things as opinions or on politics in regions, religion, and of course sexual roles and occupation. Another, intimacy versus isolation. At this stage, individuals face task of forming intimate relationship with others. If the individual is successful, he or she is able to form healthy relationship or friendships and intimate relationships with others. Integrity versus despair or the late adulthood. If the individual has been successful in resolving the crisis associated with earlier stages, when he or she looks back on his or her life, it will be a feeling of satisfaction and fulfillment. That ends my report in the Child and Adolescent Learning and Learning Principles Summarization from week 4 to 6 under Ma'am Sheila Caguimbal. Thank you for listening and may God bless us all.